Hi everyone. In our last video, we unboxed the Ugreen DXP4800 Plus. In this video, I want us to install the drives and go through the initialization and setup of the NAS. Before we get to that, someone asked me about the dimensions of the NAS. In terms of the depth, this is around 12.6 centimeters. When we flip it over, the length and the width is the same. This is 17.7 centimeters, this is 17.7 centimeters. The specs of the NAS are, it features a 12th gen Intel Pentium Gold, which is a 5-core, 6-thread CPU. It features 8 gigs of DDR5 memory, which is expandable to 64 gigabytes. We have a 128 GB NVMe M.2 SSD, which is our system disk. Now, I am going to be installing around 24 terabytes of hard drive space in the NAS, but this NAS maxes out at around 136 terabytes. We have two Ethernet ports. One is a 2.5 gig Ethernet port, and the other one is a 10 gig Ethernet port. We will be using 4 Western Digital Red Plus drives. These are NAS drives recommended for long-term running. Before we get started, it is recommended that you fill your NAS drives initially from the start. Why is this? Let's say you start with 2 drives in a 4-bay drive NAS. This means that maybe down the road you plan on adding drives to the NAS. The challenge you face when doing this down the line is because when introducing a new drive to the NAS, the drive has to do what we call rebuilding the RAID array. Rebuilding the RAID array takes so much time. In some cases, it can take more than a day. So, in as much as you can, try your best to fill your drives initially from the start. That is why I opted to do 4 drives, 6 TB each. That was my capacity as of now. And I feel like getting somewhere around 18 TB will serve me for the next couple of years. With regards to the RAID system I plan on using, I had mentioned this before, I plan on using RAID 5. RAID 5 allows me to have 1 disk failure. This means that if 1 disk fails, I do not lose my data. I can replace the disk, rebuild my RAID array, and all my data is intact. The other common RAID system that we have is RAID 6. RAID 6 allows us to have 2 disk failures. This means that if 2 drives were to fail, we will still have our data. But that comes at a cost. This means that our total capacity, total usable capacity, drops down from, we initially had around, say, 18 TB, but when we do RAID 6, that means we'll have around 12 TB, because 2 drives are parity drives. I'll link a RAID calculator and you can play around with it to see the different RAID configurations for your drives. I went with Western Digital Red Plus drives, which are on the Ugreen compatibility list. I'll leave a link below to the website where Ugreen has its compatibility list, and you can see the drives that they've tested and they've approved that work with their NASes. The Ugreen compatibility list features both SSDs, that is 2.5-inch SSDs and 3.5-inch hard disks. Now, back to our NAS. So, we're going to install the drives in the drive caddies. I'm going to open them. I have such a satisfying method of opening. And if I pull one of the drive caddies out, when we take a look at the drive caddies, we have an option where we can press and pull it out. The hard drive installation of the Ugreen NAS is toolless. You don't need any tools to install the drives, which I think is very convenient for everyone, even a beginner, to get the drives set up. So once again, you just pull this off, install the drive, and lock it back in. Such a satisfying method. I'm going to install the drives now. So right here, we have the drives in the drive caddies. So all that is left is to slide them back inside the NAS, and we're good to go. And just like that, we have our drives installed in the NAS. Once that is done, I need to talk about the connection process I'm planning to use to connect to my NAS in my home network. I have the ability to use two options, a fully wired option and a partially wired and wireless option. I'm going to explain. I'll use the latter. If I were to go with the wired option, my NAS has two Ethernet ports. We have a 2.5 gig Ethernet port and a 10 gig Ethernet port. Now, as it stands, I do not have the capability to use the 10 gig Ethernet port, or rather, my network infrastructure does not allow me to use the 10 gig Ethernet port. I already have bottlenecks. The maximum connection allowed by my router is a gigabit connection. So this means that the most likely port I'm supposed to use is the 2.5 gig Ethernet port. So I will run a cable from my router to my NAS on the 2.5 gig Ethernet port. That will be a 1 gig Ethernet port because my router is a 1 gig Ethernet connection. From there, I can run another cable straight from my router to my laptop. My laptop does not have an Ethernet port. That is why I mentioned I'm doing the latter, which is partially wireless and wired. So I'm going to run an Ethernet cable from my router to my NAS, and then the connection from my computer to my router will be wireless. It will be using Wi-Fi. Now, this will have sort of a bottleneck because this connection, the maximum I can do is around a gigabit up and down. Down the line, I'm planning to upgrade my network infrastructure. There are two options I can do. I can choose to get a 10 gig Ethernet switch. Once I have a 10 gig Ethernet switch, I can connect my laptop to the switch, and then we have another cable from the switch to the NAS, and then we have another cable from my router to the switch. That way, I will have a full 10 gig Ethernet connection. The other way I can achieve a 10 gig Ethernet connection is getting a 10 gig Ethernet adapter for my Mac, say for example, for my Mac. This means that I get a USB-C to 10 gig Ethernet. I connect a cable from that directly to the NAS. For this to be achievable, I need to enable bridging mode in the NAS. Luckily, the DXP4800 Plus has bridging mode, network bridging mode, and I'll probably do a video on this later on. Now that we're done with the explanation, I'll head on over, connect power to my NAS, and then I'll jump onto my laptop so that we can do the initialization process. So now our NAS is connected to power and connected to the router. On my laptop, the first thing we do is try to find our NAS on the network. In order for us to do that, we'll go to our browser and type find.ugnas.com. Once you do this, it tries to locate a device on your local area network, which it has on my case here. So this is a NAS and it says it hasn't been initialized. So what we do is say next, and we are greeted with a welcome screen here. We'll click on start and agree. The first thing we do is change the name of our NAS. Just change the device name. Next, we have the administrator account. Next, you can choose a good password for your NAS. So once you filled out all this, click on next. On the next page, we are prompted to bind our Ugreen NAS with a Ugreen cloud account. Now, you can choose to skip this for now, but in the event that down the line, you want the ability to remotely connect to your NAS, say you're not at home, you're out there, the only ability to connect to your NAS, which is back at home, is via the Ugreen account. So for now, I'll just skip this, but I know when I'm enabling the remote access feature, I'll have to create a Ugreen account and sign up. Here we get a warning that you want to skip. After skipping, you can't access the device remotely through the internet. Remember, we can enable this once everything is set up. In the next page, we see the registration is completed. We invite you to participate in the service improvement plan so that we can provide you with better services. So the first recommended option is only important updates to Ugreen OS. UGOS is Ugreen OS, and apps that are automatically installed. I think I'll just go with that. I'll just go with the recommended one, and I'll click on initialize. So I'll just wait for this to configure, or rather finish configuring the Ugreen OS, and I'll be back once it's done. So as we can see here, it says loading completed. So I'm guessing it's finished loading the OS files. The system is rebooting. It may take 3 to 5 minutes. When I listened to the NAS, the fan kicked in. So that is something I noted when it's powering on. During the first time I powered it on, I had the fan and then it went quiet. Well, looks like the initialization is done. It says hello, welcome to Ugreen NAS. So I'll just skip the setup guide. So this is the default page of our NAS. The first thing I want to do is head on over to the control panel and make sure that we are running the latest version of the OS. So I'll go to the control panel. I'll come to update. As you can see, there's a new update. The existing version is version 1.7.0, and we have a new version which is 1.10.0. So let's update this, and then I'll check in back once this is done. Our update has finished, and the NAS has restarted, and it's gone straight to this page. So we need to log in using the username and the password we created when setting up. Right off the bat, we're getting sort of like notifications on suggestions on what we're supposed to do next. This is a storage service notification. This is what we're going to do next. But first, let's first confirm that our update was successful. We go to control panel, go to update and restore, and we are in the latest version. The next step is creating a storage space. My main primary use of my NAS will be for storage purposes. In order for me to do this, I want to use this NAS in the simplest of terms as an external hard drive that is not necessarily connected to my laptop. In order for this to happen, we need to create a storage space, create a storage pool, so that we may be able to access that storage from any device that is on our network. In order for us to do that, I'll just close this. I'll head on over to storage. And right here, we have 4 unused hard drives that have been detected by the system. Hard drive 1, hard drive 2, hard drive 3. It's even showing us the temperature of the drives. This is so awesome. Now, if we look at the hard drive status bit, we can see it has identified our hard drives, and we also have 2 M.2 slots. Now, as of now, I haven't gotten any M.2 drives to use on the NAS, but I'm planning to do this down the line, especially for caching purposes. I'll do another video with regards to SSD caching on the NAS, but as of now, let's just create a storage space with the hard drives. Down the line, we can upgrade. We'll do a RAM upgrade and also get some NVMe SSDs that will help us with SSD caching. I'll explain this in a later video. So for now, we go back to storage. It says you have not set storage yet, so we go to create. And we can select our drives. I'll just select the 4 of them, Western Digital drives. And next, we need to select our read type. As I had communicated earlier, my preferred read configuration is RAID 5. This enables me to have one parity drive, or rather, it allows me one drive failure without losing any of my data. So we have different RAID configurations here. You can see that it says RAID 0. RAID 0 uses each individual drive separately. So if you lose one drive, the data that was on that drive is lost. So there are different configurations here. As you can see, it also recommends RAID 5. When I choose RAID 5, I'll have a total of around 16.3 TB. I'll choose the hard drive test so that once it's formatted the drives, we can know that our drives are in good working condition. I'll click on next. So this is the assigned total. We'll have around 16 terabytes of data. We can choose the file system. According to my basic knowledge, the difference between ext4 and Btrfs. Btrfs is a more recent file system. And as they say here, it supports snapshotting, copying, assigning space quotas, basically all the new features that were built around it. ext4 has been there for a while, but in as much as it doesn't support the new features like snapshots and compressions, ext4 offers high performance and stability. So it just depends with what your preference is. And I think for now, I'll just go with Btrfs. So this is our storage pool. Our total capacity will be around 16.3 TB. Our RAID configuration will be RAID 5. We have our 4 drives and our test is enabled. So I'll just click on create and I should get a warning. Here it is. All the hard drives that have been added will be deleted. Any data that is on the hard drives that we added will be deleted. In the event that you used a drive that you used to use previously, say you had an old drive lying around and you added it to the NAS, just make sure none of the data that is on that drive is important, because once you create this storage pool, all the data in those drives is deleted. So I'll just click on format. It asks us for our password. And just like that, we start creating the storage pool. The next thing we're supposed to do is configure file serving settings. File serving settings will enable us to access the storage that we created from our laptops, either PC or MacBook, and move files to and fro the NAS. So I'll just close this. I'll just minimize the suggestions. I'll just leave this here. So in order for us to configure the file serving settings, we head on over to the control panel, head on over to file service. Under SMB, we're going to enable SMB. Once we enable SMB, down here, we can see how we're supposed to use it. So Windows Resource File Manager access. On Windows, this is the address we're supposed to use in order for us to access the storage on the NAS. On Mac, we use the Finder, and this is the address you're supposed to use to find the NAS within our local area network. So I'm just going to click on apply. And just like that, we are able to find our NAS. Now, once we've enabled the SMB, we need to create folders that will be available to be shared on the network. I'll just close this, head on over to files. I'll choose shared folder and I'll create a new shared folder. I'll call it stuff. So it's going to be located in volume 1. Yeah, I'll enable recycle bin, and the recycle bin control is for the admin only. So I'll just say create, and shared folder permissions. I'll not change this. I'll choose hide subfolders and files from users who do not have permission. Just choose OK. And just like that, we have our shared folder. Now, in order for us to test this, I'll head on over to Finder, head on over to Go, connect to server. I'll paste the link we'd copied from my SMB and choose connect. So as you can see, it has taken us directly to the folder that we created, the shared folder that was called stuff. And when we look on the left under locations, we can see this is a NAS. Maura's NAS has appeared under the locations dropdown. So just like that, we've managed to create a folder, a shared folder, and share it over the network such that if you're on Mac or on Windows, you're able to access that folder, copy files, and just move files to and fro that folder. Disclaimer before you move on: if you are on Windows, just go on the search bar, on the address bar, just go on the address bar and type / the name of the NAS. It will prompt you for credentials to log into the NAS, and that way you have access to the shared folder. One more thing before we wrap up: if you want to go back to this page, the management page, let's assume you close this page. If you want to go back to the device management page, it's important that you come to the control panel, head on over to the device section panel. Under the customized device name, you can see if you are on browser, this is the address you're supposed to type on your search bar so that you can access the NAS. So it would be important to bookmark this, because if you go to a new page, paste that, it will find the NAS and ask us to log in. So whenever you want to go back to the management page, it's important that you copy this address. You can sign in and tweak your NAS, or rather change settings on the NAS. So there we have it. We have a NAS initialized and set up. We know how to connect to it, and we know how to use the storage that we created as an external server, or rather file storage server. On the next video, we're going to look at how we can use our NAS as a media server. Say you want to create your own Netflix. We can do this with our NAS. In the next video, we'll try and do that and check out a couple of features that we can explore. There is a list of endless possibilities when using the NAS. I hope you find this video helpful. If you did, drop a like down below. Subscribe to stay updated on future videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.